He is the third-generation heir of the Tijuana tycoon family, but fears a secretary, even though she dresses unusually. With just the sound of footsteps, he can recognize that she is the newly born figure, considered the future heir of the conglomerate. However, due to a mistake in the power struggle, he lost the key part of his job. Disappointed in himself, he couldn't overcome it and began to live recklessly. Thinking back to before, as he was too busy with work and had never enjoyed life, he used the excuse of a business trip but actually went for leisure. Well, let me show everyone how the company operates without me. 34 years of striving to become the owner of Songbei Jae. He dedicated a significant part of his life to the company. Now, he wonders what he has been living like all this time. In the blue sky, a plane is preparing to land. The guy in pajamas descends from the plane. Today is fantastic, the airport is bustling. SEOP has just landed at the airport, dressed as if he's in Hawaii, and meets assistant Kim, who came to pick him up. He says, "Thanks for coming to pick me up so enthusiastically." The assistant cares and asks him, "Was the flight okay? Traveling abroad like this must have been tough." He says it's okay, thinking to himself, what's tough about it? I only use business trips as an excuse to go play. SEOP happily gets into the car, telling assistant Kim, who is also the driver, to go to the hotel to rest. The assistant says the company instructed him to visit the office after returning to the country. SEOP irritably replies, "I'm exhausted, why would I go to the company? Take me to the hotel to rest." At this moment, his phone suddenly rings. Who could be calling right after he returned to the country? So impolite. Seeing the name SEOP on the screen, he immediately hangs up the phone. Then, there's the annoying sound of the phone ringing again in the car. What now, SEOP again? The irritated assistant Kim picks up the phone, making him furious. What's going on? Hang up or answer quickly. He looks at the screen, where the dazzling 3 letters Kongmin Kyun are displayed. He shudders, remembering the woman who likes to wear a vest, the one who joined the company at the same time as him. SEOP thinks she may be a bit quirky, but whatever. Assistant Kim, he commands, act like I'm giving orders. Later, in SEOP's private room, an extremely tired young man is resting on a luxurious bed. He sighs and exclaims, "Finally, I can take a breath." Suddenly, a phone ring interrupts him. SEOP answers irritably, "What now?" Assistant Kim hesitates. "Director, about that." An unexpected voice speaks through the phone at this moment. "Director SEOP, can I come in for a moment?" Outside the room, Secretary Kim trembles in fear. "I'm standing at the door now. Can you open it? The deputy director will come in now." SEOP anxiously asks, "Who is it? Is it Kongmin Kyun?" He abruptly gets up from the bed and questions, "How does she know I'm here?" The girl holding the phone introduces herself casually, "I'm Kongmin Kyun." SEOP angrily shouts into the phone, "Are you executing orders from above like this? Isn't working at the company enough for you? How does a deputy director like you have time to come to my door?" After hearing this, Kongmin Kyun calmly replies, "Starting today, I am your secretary and assistant." He only accepts the truth now that she is not joking. Kongmin Kyun continues, "This is a direct order from Songbei Jae." Hearing this, SEOP is dumbfounded. Before he can react, she says, "I sincerely apologize, due to limited time, I'm coming in now." Hearing this, SEOP panics, jumps off the bed, and in his haste, he trips on the blanket and falls flat on his face. As the heir of the wealthiest conglomerate in the country, SEOP has never been so embarrassed in his life. He speaks up, "Wait a moment." Before he can pull up his pants, the door opens. Kongmin Kyun sticks her head in, wearing a professional smile. "Hello, director." After many years, the two meet again in an extremely awkward situation. SEOP, red-faced, hurriedly pulls up his pants. The secretary acts as if she hasn't seen anything, closes the door. SEOP inside the room goes crazy, embarrassed and shouting a few words. A few minutes later, SEOP finally dressed properly comes out. She smiles as she always does a billion times and asks, in 15 minutes, are you ready to depart? Surprisingly, SEOP, without hesitation, says, you've seen it all. He hasn't prepared, and he's hungry, hasn't had breakfast, and he doesn't even have clothes to wear. But Kong Min Ki-yun seems to be born to punish SEOP. Hearing him say that, she immediately says, you don't need to worry about that. Saying so, she turns to the side, and Assistant Kim understands immediately, bowing his head, yes, then takes out a freshly washed suit. She has also prepared a sandwich for breakfast, which annoys SEOP even more. He says he doesn't eat sandwiches. The cheese sandwich doesn't have vegetables according to the director's taste, and I've also prepared an egg sandwich. Kong Min Ki-yun says slowly. SEOP looks at her. He's out of arguments. She even arranges a tight schedule for him. We will be moving, and I will explain the schedule and situations in detail on the way. Having just returned to the country less than a day and already being put to work, SEOP is furious. A secretary should only do the secretary's job, right? Why did you come to my house? This is my private space. At home, I dress quite comfortably. What if I'm not wearing clothes like earlier? Are you responsible for that? Kong Min Ki-yun momentarily dumbfounded, is it because I'm a woman that you feel uncomfortable? SEOP is also dumbfounded when he hears that, looking at her, then he bursts into laughter. You asked if I feel uncomfortable because you're a woman? Are you crazy? Why would I feel uncomfortable because of you? Kong Min Ki-yun laughs, it seems like I misunderstood. It looks like the director is very comfortable with me. That's great. Now there are only 10 minutes left before departure. It seems that bathing time is a bit tight. Assistant Kim, yes, then brings out a small bag. We guessed that there might not be time to shower, so we prepared wet towels in advance. Let's start now. Well, I excuse myself, Assistant Kim bows to Director SEOP again. Kong Min Ki-yun puts on gloves, intending to wipe him. Feeling her intimidation, he yells loudly, what are you doing? I'm already irritated, so don't appear in front of me. He bows his head apologetically, I will shower and be back within 5 minutes. While walking, SEOP is lost in thought, and in his eyes, Kong Min Ki-yun remains the same. Back then, she still had that long ponytail, trendy glasses, and a worn-out suit from 10 years ago. But from another perspective, she is still extraordinary, and her capabilities have not changed since the first time they met. Even though his mind has aged over time, he still doesn't like her as before. Since birth, SEOP has always stood at the pinnacle. Praised as a prodigy from a young age, he has never disappointed in maintaining the #1 position. This is the result of his daring efforts to deserve the position of the heir to the TK conglomerate. However, when entering the company as an intern at the same time as her, he turned into someone always ranking second, even in the year-end outstanding employee review. SEOP's self-esteem was deeply wounded. Even today, she appears before him as a secretary arranged by the conglomerate's owner. This girl can always make him suddenly lose his temper. When SEOP finishes blow-drying his hair exactly in 5 minutes, the secretary appears immediately, saying, right on time. Director, excellent. He turns to look at her, thinking how competent she is, she should be his secretary. He puts on a coat and says, Assistant Manager Kong, I don't like a too familiar secretary. She says, I will try to make you satisfied. He interrupts, no. I haven't finished. Assistant Manager Kong Min Ki-yun, I really dislike you. From the first day of training, when assigned to the same department as you, I already disliked you. So, please give up being my secretary. Kong Min Ki-yun steps back a bit, holding the tablet tightly, trying to smile. Director SEOP, now you are 7 minutes late compared to the scheduled time, we should leave now. Taxi Chairman Hone is waiting. He has said that, and she still doesn't change. Excelby is angry, clenching his fists, looking at this girl. A second later, He holds his head and sighs helplessly because he can't do anything to this girl. Frustrated, he puts on his coat, and they depart. Kong Minky-eun watches his retreating figure, thinking silently, does he really hate me? The first time I met him 10 years ago, I already didn't like the heir of the TK conglomerate. Anyway, he's just a spoiled rich kid. But Kong Minky-eun has a significant problem. Even though Tae-seop tries to act carefree and rude, his face is exactly the ideal model in her dreams. She endures and works hard for 10 years, relying on her self-control and work capability, finally becoming an assistant manager. Unexpectedly, a transfer order turned her into his secretary because his family wanted to bring the carefree playboy back to his rightful position. She is the eldest in a normal family, but she is very talented. To celebrate her joining the TK conglomerate with top achievements, her relatives saved a large sum to buy her an expensive suit. The girl holds up the clothing tag and looks at it, even with a 70% discount, it's not cheap. Her mother smiles brightly when seeing her proud daughter. The mother exclaims, wearing expensive clothes does make a difference. The girl is calculating if this suit is worth buying. If she works for 52 weeks, 55 days, she can wear it 260 times if she wears it every 3 days. And if she wears it every 3 days for 3 years, it costs 1,001 per day. It seems good, of course, she will have to wear only this suit for 3 months. But her mother is a bit worried, she knows her daughter is very talented, but the outside world is different from school, full of intrigues and conflicts. She calls Kong Minky-eun back, seriously advising her that outside, she has to endure more. Instead of saying what she wants to say what others want to hear. Smile more when looking into others' eyes. The first thing is to absolutely obey superiors. Endure not to show an unhappy or resentful face. And so, for 10 years of working for Kong Minky-eun, she has always lived by her mother's teachings, obey superiors, rely on excellent work abilities to present perfect work reports. Moreover, she was quickly promoted to the youngest assistant manager in the company. But now, she is finding it hard to accept that she is being arranged to work as a personal secretary. She looks at the man opposite her, it seems like he's not joking. Is there a mistake? Have I done something wrong? If so, please tell me, I will correct it immediately. You didn't do anything wrong. More accurately, you are too outstanding. Assistant Manager Kong says, I know arranging like this is unreasonable. I also regret not wanting to lose a talent like you. But in all of TK, I am afraid only Assistant Manager Kong can deal with Tae-seop. Regarding this reassignment, you will receive an attractive offer from Songbae-jae. Hearing the 3 words Songbae-jae, she startles. Songbae-jae symbolizes the history of South Korea's financial world, also the mansion of the TK conglomerate chairman. This indicates that it is the highest leader's decision for her. Like that, she entered the symbolic house of the domestic financial world of the TK conglomerate chairman. It is a story that is both good and bad, accepting the biggest opportunity of her life is also the biggest risk. She still remembers meeting him for the first time a week before. His cold and fierce eyes made her spine chill, as if he was forcing her to complete this task. Just because her ordinary family had to support 2 nameless twin brothers, who were athletes. The company used the excuse of nurturing them to force her to work for the conglomerate for the past 10 years, and now they are transferring her from a high-level management position to a secretary role. Today, Kong Minky-eun followed Tae-seop to the headquarters of the conglomerate. When she saw Director Tae-seop and the chairman talking happily, she thought silently about the chairman, but at this moment, he was quite different from usual. She was surprised to see his face so approachable. The only person who could make him uncomfortable might be Tae-seop. While she was lost in thought, his gaze suddenly became very sharp. He turned back to her and asked, Assistant Manager Kong, are you working properly? Kong Minky-eun, startled, trembling, answered, today is my first day in this position. I'm still not very proficient. There was a little mistake. He affirmed, that's right. You were a bit late today. She bowed, trembling, and replied, I will correct it, in the future, I will definitely not be late. Seeing her panic like that, SEOP felt sorry for her. Her frightened expression was completely different from the confident and lively appearance just now. The chairman continued, I always expect your performance at work, I hope you won't disappoint me. I will do my best not to let you down, Chairman, Kong Minky-yun replied respectfully. At this point, the chairman reminded SEOP, you are the pillar of TK. So you need the best support from the company. SEOP hesitated for a moment, then nodded and said, indeed, no one is more outstanding than Assistant Manager Kong. But sir, having Assistant Manager Kong work as a secretary for me. It seems a waste of talent. Before he could finish speaking, he felt Kong Minky-yun pulling at his shirt. SEOP glanced at her, seeing her extremely worried and pleading eyes, shaking his head to signal to him. At this moment, SEOP turned back and continued, having Assistant Manager Kong work as a secretary for me seems a waste of talent. Hearing the chairman ask if he had anything else to say, SEOP smiled and continued, I just want to thank you for this thoughtful arrangement. On the second day of working together, Kong Minky-yun, in the role of a secretary, felt a level of patience she had never seen in the 10 years working in the conglomerate until now. The young master was trying to make it difficult for her while she was thinking of ways to help him take over the production department's work. She couldn't understand where SEOP's extreme arrogance and ambition from before had gone. Back then, he was not considerate of her and made a great effort to take first place. In the past, he was truly someone worthy of the title prince, not the sluggish appearance he had now. The fashion sector of TK, which he was in charge of, was the foundation of the company and also the most headache-inducing because of the prolonged losses. SEOP thought, why assign this task to me? The TK fashion company is approaching bankruptcy. He had no way to revive it in a short time. He originally hated working, and now he felt even more unmotivated to try. Or should I just shut it down? Thinking of this, he suddenly remembered that Secretary Kong was next to him and turned to ask, Kong Minky-yun, were you cursing me just now? The assistant manager Kong, who is so capable, has to be in the same boat with me. Now, how can things be okay with me affecting her? His sarcastic tone made Kong Minky-yun frightened, and she quickly replied, no, I genuinely feel that supporting you in your work is my honor. SEOP coldly walked up to her and asked, Assistant Manager Kang's lips seemed dry. Instead of using spit to moisten them, you rushed to lie like that. Don't do that in the future. After speaking, he shrugged and walked away. Left alone in the room, Kong Minky-yun involuntarily touched her lips, feeling her heart beating rapidly, thinking to herself, will I be okay in the future? The highly skilled young man, in whom everyone had placed high hopes, failed for the first time in his life in front of Kong Minky-yun. He fell to second place after her, the woman he despised. While resting in the office with his eyes closed, he daydreamed about the first time they met 10 years ago. His grandfather had instructed him to observe closely to see if she had the capability. But for the proud SEOP, he didn't care about the woman who took away his first place. With her exceptionally beautiful appearance and wealthy, powerful background, he was usually admired by many girls. However, no one dared to look him directly in the eye except Kong Minky-yun. One time in the hallway, she walked past him. Instead of avoiding his gaze, she calmly looked him straight in the eyes. This action surprised and angered him, as she seemed completely uninterested in him. Just at that moment, Kong Minky-yun pushed the door open and hastily said, Director, I have brought the documents that need your approval. SEOP opened his eyes in anger and asked, I haven't answered you yet, why did you take the liberty of pushing the door in? Kong Minky-yun carefully placed the stack of documents on the table, anxiously explaining, I sincerely apologize. I noticed that you seemed to be sleeping, but this is quite urgent and important, so I couldn't wait for you to wake up. This is the report related to the resort project. SEOP, initially planning to scold her, calmed down after reading the report. He was surprised that she had arranged the report so perfectly. However, he still coldly threw the report on the table, sternly saying, Assistant Manager Kong, no matter how hard you try, you won't gain anything, and moreover, no one will know about your achievements. This small fashion company can't survive without me anyway. Kong Minki-yun remained silent for a moment. This small fashion company can't survive without me anyway. Kong Minki-yun remained silent for a moment and then responded seriously, please don't say that. In the hearts of all employees, you are always the indispensable core figure of TK Corporation. Everyone is aware of your efforts over the past 10 years. Moreover, I am honored to support you in your work. Upon hearing this, SEOP looked at her in surprise. Despite his intelligence and shrewdness, he turned away, feeling somewhat irritated, muttering to himself, I know, you can leave first. I will confirm this report later. After seeing her leave, his mind replayed the serious expression on her face, and he couldn't calm down for a long time after her recent words. He, the heir of a wealthy family, was afraid of a secretary. Even though she wasn't in the office, he could still sense her presence. The sound of her footsteps outside the door made him uneasy. Trying to escape from her, SEOP's car circled the streets 3 times, yet the sound of her footsteps persisted, haunting him like a horror movie soundtrack. He felt his heart about to leap out of his chest. Clearly, he was her superior, but he couldn't comprehend why he was afraid of a petite secretary. His car seemed to be the only refuge from her, yet a blaring ringtone pierced the silence inside the car, making him jump in his seat. Glancing over, he saw Kong Minki-yun calling, and before he could think, his assistant Kim pressed the answer button. He hastily whispered to Kim, tell her I'm not here. Unexpectedly, Kong Minki-yun on the other end immediately replied, Director, I heard what you said. As far as I know, you don't have any scheduled appointments today. There's a mountain of work waiting for you in the office. Can you come back now? No, I'm very busy, SEOP hurriedly declined. Hearing this, Kong Minki-yun on the other end burst into laughter and said, exactly, you're truly busy. I'll wait until you return. SEOP delayed his return to the company, making her wait all day. That evening, after returning home and venting all his work-related frustration, her close friend and roommate, Se-young, comforted her with a gentle pat on the back, saying, our Kong Minki-yun has been through a lot. At this moment, Hoo In-sung arrived. He was a childhood friend from the same neighborhood. They had lived like a family since childhood. Because Kong Minki-yun graduated earlier than her peers, she didn't have friends her age. Hoo In-sung and Se-young were her most important childhood friends, especially Hoo In-sung. During high school, he had been the only trustworthy older brother figure for her. Tonight, they all had dinner at Kong Minki-yun's house. Hoo In-sung took off his coat and asked Se-young, is it true that you're going on a blind date tomorrow? Se-young, surprised, asked, how did you know? Did you meet the person I'm meeting? He messaged you, asking if you did something wrong? Se-young hesitated and asked again, did I respond rudely? What else did he say? Hoo In-sung laughed and said, he only asked about your interests. I told him, you're a very fashionable girl who likes the French restaurant at the hotel. He said you fit his ideal type and find you very charming. Hearing this, Kong Minki-yun remained silent. After dinner, when they bid farewell to Hoo In-sung, she expressed her concern to Se-young, what should I do? The story goes like this. Se-young struggled to secure a ticket to the final performance of her idol. However, the performance coincided with the day of her blind date, and the person she was meeting was someone her mother had long awaited. Unable to refuse, she pleaded with Kong Minki-yun to go on the blind date on her behalf and promised to take care of all the household chores the following month. Seeing no other option, Kong Minki-yun reluctantly agreed. Se-young is the editor of a fashion magazine with 8 years of experience, while Kong Minki-yun always pursues affordability without knowing much about fashion, only caring about the prices. Remembering Woo In-sung's words earlier that Se-young is charming and beautiful as expected by the blind date, Kong Minki-yun worriedly asked, how can I pretend to be you? Se-young held her hand reassuringly, no need to worry. I'll use my own reputation to swear that I'll definitely transform you into a perfect Seong. If not, I'll make you surpass Seong and become an entirely new Kong Minki-yeon. Kong Minki-yeon indeed had a very beautiful face but maintained a demeanor like a middle-aged woman in the office for the past 10 years because she believed that working hard was enough. Today, when her close friend begged her to help with the blind date, she began to worry a bit about her appearance. After Seong did her makeup, she transformed from the old-fashioned Kong Minki-yeon into a dazzlingly beautiful Seong. Seong exclaimed, "Truly a perfect goddess." A moment later, in front of Hotel Y, tonight SEOP had a small gathering with some friends. He hurried inside to find his friends. At the same time, Kong Minki-yeon found her table. The two passed by each other like that. When Kong Minki-yeon sat down, her beauty made Seong's blind date blush and stammer, asking, "I heard you're very charming. I imagined you would be petite, but you're unexpectedly tall and beautiful." Kong Minki-yeon smiled with a professional touch, complimenting the delicious food although she hadn't tasted it yet. Just as she finished speaking, she remembered and shyly looked down at the food on her plate, thinking, "This atmosphere is really awkward." Luckily, Seong had said that they only needed to meet for about an hour, which meant there were only 10 minutes left until the end of this appointment. Seong's blind date is a stylish and young man, the son of a renowned director of a large hospital in the city. Having a meal with him puts considerable pressure on Kong Minki-yeon. As the dinner is coming to an end, he hesitates and invites Kong Minki-yeon to the hotel's rooftop bar, famous for its Seoul night cocktails. Kong Minki-yeon declines and thanks him, saying, "I'd love to go, but I have work tomorrow, so I must decline." After bidding farewell, she goes to the restroom to adjust her clothes and remove the contact lenses. Seeing herself in the mirror, she lets out a sigh of relief, finally overcame that. It feels unfamiliar for her to dress like this for the first time. At this moment, Seong sends her a message, reminding her that she has booked a hotel room for Kong Minki-yeon to stay overnight to express gratitude for attending the blind date. The hotel room bill, along with the hotel's cocktails, is not refundable. Kong Minki-yeon hesitates, but regrets the amount Seong has spent. She looks at the luxurious decor and changes her mind about going home tonight. After working hard for months, perhaps she should reward herself for once. Moreover, tonight is a rare opportunity, and who knows when she'll have a chance to go to such a place again. Just enjoy tonight. At this time, SEOP is also at the rooftop bar, with friends. He leans back in his chair, sipping red wine, and compliments its taste. One of his friends laughs and asks, "SEOP, are you really not dating? Do you plan to remain single forever?" Another adds, "Have you found the right person? Is it the professor's daughter?" SEOP looks helpless and says, "Why do you care about other people's personal matters?" They all laugh. What's more interesting than a wealthy heir over 30 still single? I really want to see you dating. Let's all raise a glass to wish SEOP a quick escape from singledom. SEOP takes a sip and finishes his drink. Just then, he hears the familiar sound of approaching footsteps, the familiar clicking of high heels, making his heart beat faster. SEOP instinctively looks up, searching, and sees a girl approaching. She wears a tight, elegant dress, and her long, alluring hair cascades down behind her shoulders. SEOP opens his eyes wide, dreamily watching the girl in front of him. Under the lights, she gracefully walks past his table. The closer the footsteps, the more SEOP thinks of Kong Minki-yeon. He panics with his own thoughts, am I going crazy? Why would Kong Minki-yeon appear here? However, he wants to confirm whether it's her. He takes out his phone and sends a reminder text to her, early office tomorrow. He's dumbfounded as he sends it when the girl's phone also rings. He gazes at the back of her phone, and the decorative pattern resembles that of Deputy Manager Kong. It's her favorite garlic design. The girl immediately responds to the text. Indeed, it's Kong Minki-yeon. SEOP stands still, staring at the girl in front of him, truly beautiful, making it impossible for him to look away. SEOP's friend, standing next to him, teasingly asks why he looks so entranced. Is it because of that girl? Sip quickly denies it, but his mischievous friend adds, just keep an eye on her from now on. Looks like a model, is that your preference, Sip? That's why you've been staring at her the whole time. Haha. Sip awkwardly responds that she looks like someone he knows, but his eyes remain fixed on Kong Min-ki-yoon. On the other side, Kong Min-ki-yoon, curious about the famous cocktail at the bar, orders one. After all, she's staying here tonight, so she should enjoy herself. The soothing music plays, and she gazes through the glass door, admiring the sparkling city lights below, thinking she looks beautiful today. Seong is called by someone, and she turns around. It's her blind date from earlier. He nervously scratches his head, saying, what a coincidence, meeting again, and pulls a chair to sit opposite Kong Min-ki-yoon. The conversation is cheerful, but Kong Min-ki-yoon is unaware that the cocktail she's been sipping has a higher alcohol content than its light taste suggests. She's had quite a bit and starts to get drunk. On the other side, Sip continues to watch intently. Yes, he doesn't understand their relationship and speculates. It seems he's not her boyfriend. She's drinking so much, how will she go to work tomorrow? The bespectacled man continues to order more drinks for her. Later, she starts to feel dizzy and can no longer see his face clearly. She stands up, wanting to leave, but he holds her back, saying to wait for Song, who is on his way. Song will take her home. She stumbles, and he has to support her to stand upright. At this time, Sip ran out of patience, rushed over, and loudly scolded, she said she didn't want it, but you want to seduce her? The guy tried to explain, you misunderstood. That's not it. MKU vaguely heard a familiar voice and asked, who is it? Alcohol made her body feel hot and stuffy. She unbuttoned 2 buttons of her shirt. Sip quickly took off his jacket. He grumbled, I've been sitting over there all this time and I've seen it all. What does it mean to force them to sit together and then force them to drink alcohol? The subject immediately panicked and took out his business card from his pocket to explain. Kong Min-ki-yoon was now very drunk, staggering and about to fall. Sip quickly caught her. Kong Min-ki-yoon dreamily looked up, saw him, and called out, Director. Seeing her hot, round breasts that had just been revealed when she took off her shirt, Sip's eyes widened for a few seconds, overwhelmed by that image, but just a few seconds later he blushed and turned away in embarrassment. Look away. Sip gave her his jacket. She looked straight into his face and said nonsense, where did the document summary go? I'm sorry, I'll do it again soon. Sip turned around and scolded the man in glasses for giving her too much to drink. Even though he explained that he didn't mean it and that they were on a blind date. Sip still angrily crumpled his business card and said I'm her colleague. Kong Min-ki-yoon wanted to say something, but in her drunken state, she immediately dropped her coat. Crazy, Sip grumbled and bent down to help her. As he lifted his head, he said, sober up. Meanwhile, she staggered down to pick up her coat. Sip gasped again when he saw more clearly the soft, milky white part of her chest. Seen enough now, he stood up muttering to himself. He promptly used his own wide coat to wrap her up like a cocoon, as if trying to hide a precious object. While doing so, he loudly exclaimed, sober up. There are still many perverts in the world. Earlier, when he heard him call Kong Min-ki-yoon's name, the young man looked surprised and asked, who is she? Isn't she the one Seong was supposed to meet? At that moment, Song arrived and interrupted the chaos between them. He naturally introduced Kong Min-ki-yoon's real identity to the bespectacled man. Her name is Kong Min-ki-yoon, a close friend and roommate of Seong. Song also approached and greeted Sip, you're the CEO of TK, right? It's impolite. I'm Song, the legal advisor of your company. Unexpected to meet you here. Sip eyed him with suspicion and hostility. Kong Min-ki-yoon, now recognizing Song, was surprised and asked why he was here. If he finds out about the matchmaking, Sejong will be in trouble, Kong Minky-yeon thought in her drunken stupor. She quickly hid behind Tae-seop, her weak hand clinging tightly to his. Tae-seop, blushing and embarrassed, suddenly recalled when she clung to his shirt at his grandfather's house, just as shaky as now. Before Tae-seop could react, Hu In-sung raised his hand, took Kong Minky-yeon, and pulled her towards him, saying, "Excuse me, CEO. Let me take her home. She's quite drunk." However, Tae-seop disagreed. "She's my subordinate, I can't entrust her to someone I don't know." "What's your relationship with Kong Minky-yeon?" Tae-seop struggled with Hu In-sung. "I am a close friend of Kong Minky-yeon. We've known each other since childhood, so you don't need to worry," Hu In-sung affirmed confidently, holding on to Kong Minky-yeon's shoulder. Hu In-sung coaxed, "Kong Minky-yeon, I won't let anything happen to Sejong. You can trust me. Why did you drink so much?" Within Hu In-sung's embrace, Kong Minky-yeon turned into a vulnerable child. "Are you angry with me?" Tae-seop, watching her act cute like that, felt extremely uncomfortable, yet also witnessed another cute side of her that confused him. "Enough rudeness. Next time I will formally greet you," Hu In-sung said, catching sight of the coat on her shoulders, assuming it was Tae-seop's. He wanted to unbutton it, but Tae-seop quickly stepped forward to stop him. Carefully, he buttoned up each button from top to bottom, ensuring Kong Minky-yeon was discreetly covered. He then instructed to return the coat to him later. Hu In-sung, looking displeased, said, "Thank you for your concern for Kong Minky-yeon," and led her swaying towards her room. "Let's go, I'll take you home," Hu In-sung said gently, both leaving in front of Tae-seop and the man from the matchmaking. Tae-seop stood there feeling uneasy, muttering curses under his breath. How could that guy be so bold? He dared to question him, a superior, and interfered too much in the personal life of an employee. The question left Tae-seop unable to answer, his heart filled with resentment. The next morning, Tae-seop woke up, remembering the events of the previous night, like a dream. It seemed like he had encountered Miss Kong at the bar. What happened after the two of them left? Did her so-called brother take her to a hotel? Yes, those were things he shouldn't be concerned about. Yet, he couldn't get it out of his mind. Shortly after, as he arrived at the company, he encountered Kong Minky-yeon. She greeted him, but he pretended not to care, although he was still uncomfortable about it. Even as Tae-seop sat in the car, he thought to himself, "This morning, she looks quite cheerful. Probably slept well last night, no trace of alcohol smell either. She looks fine, no need for me to worry." Tae-seop didn't want to look at Kong Minky-yeon's face or hear her voice. He felt irritated, and he couldn't understand why he was so annoyed. In the afternoon, Kong Minky-yeon knocked on the door and entered the room, but he paid no attention. "Sir, lunch is ready," she said, bowing her head. He glanced at her and turned away, petulantly saying, "I'm not eating, I don't have much appetite. Also, cancel all my schedules for today. I'm not feeling well." "Yes, I understand." Min Kung closed the door, standing still for a moment. She pondered how to return the coat. Sitting down, she sighed to herself, "Should I pretend to forget about it? Or should I apologize?" Thinking back to that cold demeanor, Kong Minky-yeon knew he didn't want to see her today. In this way, one person inside and one person outside the room pursued their own thoughts. Tae-seop sat in the car feeling melancholic, driving around to relax a bit. Driver and assistant Kim suggested taking the CEO to the riverside. He said, "If you go to a spacious place, it seems your mood will improve. Do you know how I feel? When you think a lot, it seems you'll call me. I thought of taking you to someplace to make the CEO more comfortable." Tae-seop was pleased with this assistant, finding him very attentive. Assistant Kim Minky-yeon also does the same. When clearing her thoughts, she runs along the Han River. Tae-seop imagined Kong Minky-yeon exercising here. Assistant Kim added, "I heard she ran 10 kilometers once." Tae-seop thought Miss Kong was busy, but still dedicated to exercising. No wonder her figure was so firm and attractive. Thinking about the image of Kong Min-ki-yoon the night before, Tae-sip blushed, feeling embarrassed. He grumbled, "Assistant Kim, can't I go in silence? I apologize for being too noisy." That evening, when Tae-sip returned home, his younger sister teased him, "What's going on? Are you also joining the family dinner? You keep coming up with excuses to leave, don't you?" "Tsoo you talk as if I never attend," Tae-sip replied. A familiar voice spoke up. Tae-sip, his cousin, asked Tae-sip, "Why did you go to Songbae-jae?" "I'm planning to propose to Choi Ki-young, so I went to meet the chairman." The fact that the heir to the conglomerate chose a girl over the company had caused a recent shock in the news. "That's cool," Tae-sip, his younger sister exclaimed. She lamented that her older brother was always busy with work and had never had a girlfriend. What should they do? The teasing remarks infuriated the older brother, who went outside to get some fresh air. While strolling, he turned back and gestured for Tae-sip to join him outside for a moment. The cousin came out with a beer bottle in hand. Popping the cap, he tilted it back, drinking with beer spilling down the corners of his mouth, making Tae-sip disgusted, muttering that he was uncultured. Tsoo said that if you drink like that, women will really like the sexy look. "What's with calling me like that, Director Tae-sip?" Tae-sip asked. "Because of the matter with Deputy Director Kong Min-ki-yoon. Take her back to your team," Tae-sip said quietly. Tae-sip calmly thought for a moment and then laughed, "What if I don't?" Tae-sip started to get annoyed, and Tae-sip said, "We've already added personnel very well, and Deputy Kong is working excellently beside you. There seems to be no reason to transfer her back to me." Tae-sip sighed and said, "You know my secretary is an outstanding talent. You deliberately kept her by your side until now, right? Is there any problem with Deputy Kong?" The conversation ended without any new solution. Tae-sip couldn't move Kong Min-ki-yoon back to her previous position. Early the next morning, Tae-sip's younger sister hurriedly knocked on his door, shouting excitedly with a happy face. She had seen news on the internet that the TK conglomerate heir was secretly dating a girl. She gleefully showed her phone and asked her brother about the girl. Tae-sip hadn't fully awakened yet. He looked at the phone screen in surprise. Unexpectedly, he was photographed and secretly posted online. The picture of him and Kong Min-ki-yoon at the hotel the previous night had caught public attention. His younger sister bombarded him with questions about the girl. Tae-sip was surprised and asked how she knew. His younger sister innocently replied that she just saw the photos and made a guess. Wow, he realized that he was hugged by a woman for the first time at this age. Normally, just touching a woman would startle him. This was truly unbelievable. The younger sister continued to talk for a while, advising her brother to be a bit more romantic. Was he considering dating her? If not, was he planning to marry the daughter of the Choi family according to the tacit agreement between the elders of the two families to secure the heir's position at TK? The continuous questions drove Tae-sip crazy, so he handed his black card to his sister for her to go shopping. At least he managed to get away from her. However, Tae-sip felt uneasy recalling the feeling of hugging Kong Min-ki-yoon in his arms the previous night, and the image of her figure was still vivid and attractive, making him blush when he thought about it. Later, when they arrived at the company, Kong Min-ki-yoon also saw the news online. She stood in front of Tae-sip, bowed sincerely, and apologized for damaging the director's reputation. Tae-sip nonchalantly said, "Although there's an article, there's no need to apologize like this. I was also careless to intrude into Deputy Kang's private life." His strange attitude towards this damaging incident surprised Kong Min-ki-yoon. More worried and promising seriously, she said, "As the director's secretary, I assure you that such absurdity will never happen again. This is due to the reporter's distorted writing. It's not your fault, but mine for causing trouble. I will do my best not to harm the director's position anymore." Hearing this, Tae-sip waved his hand, "It's okay. just report the next schedule. Kong Min-ki-yoon sighed in relief, returned to work, and reported an external meeting scheduled outside the company. The two of them then moved to the location. Standing in the elevator, Tae-seop pondered if it was necessary to show such fear, to apologize. Then reason returned, and he realized that for her, it was just work, and he must handle it properly. She was just doing her job as his secretary. What was he expecting? Tae-seop calmed down gradually. Descending to the lobby of the building, Tae-seop was still contemplative. Suddenly, his face caught small rays of light, flashing into his eyes. Cameras never stopped clicking. The reporters rushed forward, capturing images of them. The flashing lights and flickering affected him. Tae-seop felt uncomfortable, covering his face in fear. Kong Min-ki-yoon, seeing him pale with rapid breathing and trembling, was genuinely concerned. She shielded him and glared hatefully at the reporters. Assistant Kim, the driver, sped up and drove to them. The car door opened, director and deputy, quickly get on the car. The reporters still didn't let go, chasing them to capture photos of them sitting in the car as they left. She eagerly asked him if he was okay. He couldn't speak, just gasping for breath with a terrified look. Eventually, he fainted and collapsed on Kong Min-ki-yoon's lap. She looked horrified as he lay unconscious in her arms. The car quickly changed direction, towards the nearest hospital. In a private room, Tae-seop woke up around midnight. He dreamily remembered the events of the day. It had been a long time since he experienced panic to this extent. Suddenly, he recalled being with Kong Min-ki-yoon before losing consciousness. He raised his eyes to find her sleeping on the sofa across the room. Was she always by his side like this? It was already late. He looked at the clock, she must be exhausted. Kong Min-ki-yoon stirred, accidentally dropping her glasses to the floor as she woke up, seeing the director standing in front of her. She quickly got up and helped him back to bed. Worriedly, she cautioned him not to get up, he was still receiving fluids. Tae-seop whispered, I know. You should go and rest. You must be tired. She disagreed, it's my responsibility. I didn't pay attention to the director's health, so I volunteered to stay. Lately, you've been skipping meals, so I'll check on your eating habits. Tae-seop hesitated, saying he wasn't a child who needed supervision. Secretary Kong swiftly arranged the food in front of him, insisting that he should eat even if it didn't suit his taste. She assured him that she had handled today's incident carefully, ensuring that no information was leaked, so he could rest assured. Tae-seop hesitated with the chopsticks, thank you. Before he could finish, Kong Min-ki-yoon's stomach rumbled loudly, and she couldn't help but frown. Angry that it was this late, she glared at Tae-seop. He suggested they eat together, otherwise, he wouldn't eat. He thought Deputy Kong was like a robot, but seeing her tangled hair and the way she ate rice made him realize she was human too. He spoke up to explain why he had such a panic attack. Since he was a child, his father had been strict, placing all his ambitions on Tae-seop, hoping that his son would be the future owner of TK. He often said to him, son, everyone is watching you. Your every move must be impeccable. You cannot slack off. Remember, you are the face and future of this conglomerate. When going out, whether for leisure or study, reporters were always hunting for news and taking photos, so his actions had to be careful. Every day, he lived under tension, paying attention to his actions to avoid affecting his personal image and the company's image. Tae-seop slowly said, reporters follow me as if they want me to make a mistake, so I thought I had become accustomed to the flashlights. But it seems not. One day, during a family photo shoot, when the photographer counted 1, 2, 3, and the camera flashed, he collapsed. That's how it is. Now, just relax a bit. Ms. Kong Min-ki-yoon is having her meal, and I'm talking too much. Please, continue eating. So he turned out to be a person with more troubles than she had thought. I will prepare for the morning meeting, and I will be back by 8, Kong Min-ki-yoon said. Tae-seop looked at the clock, It was almost 8 in the morning. Wasn't it too early to go to work? She advised him not to worry, the documents were ready, and the morning schedule had been delayed, so there wasn't much time left, she would leave early. SEOP told her, wait a moment, anyway, it's almost time for work. Or stay here and sleep. SEOP suddenly startled at her own words. Am I crazy? What did I just think and say? Standing near the entrance, Kong Minki-yoon didn't hear clearly, so she asked, is there anything else, Director? SEOP hesitated, no. You can go home. Kong Minki-yoon left, and he still couldn't calm down. Wasn't it when he fell that he hit something? The next morning, SEOP woke up feeling refreshed. Although she had a good sleep, her body still felt a bit tired. There was a knock on the door, and when she turned, she saw Kong Minki-yoon had arrived. A little expectation in him had become a reality. She greeted him, good morning, I brought the laptop for the online meeting. Watching her work diligently, SEOP knew that she was exhausted but didn't show it. Kong Minki-yoon was still energetic as usual, full of energy, while SEOP was not. Yesterday, he lacked control over everything, and he thought it was because of his unstable health. After finishing the meeting, to let him rest more, she arranged a schedule for him not to go to the office. Touched, SEOP said, thank you. Laughter echoed outside the hospital room, so are we going out today? Soo Jean, his younger sister, hugged a bouquet and came to visit her brother. She overheard the conversation and suggested, shall we go out today? SEOP frowned and asked, why are you here? My brother fainted and was admitted to the hospital, of course, I had to come. Mom said that? Does Mom know? SEOP asked. Now that it's a big deal. Mom and Dad said they were giving him vitamins. Haha. Her mischievous sister laughed. SEOP frowned, I'm not taking that. Kong Minki-yoon looked at the scene and found joy in the warmth of their family bond. Assistant Kong Minki-yoon, right? Hello. Nice to meet you for the first time. His younger sister approached to introduce herself to his secretary. I'm Kong Minki-yoon, the assistant to the director, Kong Minki-yoon replied with reluctance. I've met Assistant Kong Minki-yoon before. Yes, you ranked first in the company sports day, right? That's amazing. His younger sister, Soo Jean, was adept at leading the conversation. Her older brother got annoyed and chased her away, go home quickly, don't talk nonsense here. The younger sister pulled him aside and whispered, I will help you. The older brother got angry and didn't know how to deal with his mischievous younger sister. Soo Jean ran back, inviting Deputy Director Sung to buy coffee, while the patient waited for them in the waiting room. Outside the hospital gate, Soo Jean transformed back into the elegant young lady, with a gentle and serious expression, saying, Deputy Director Kong, yesterday was quite unexpected, wasn't it? Kong Minki-yoon said, yes, I didn't expect him to faint like that. Fortunately, the director's health is better today, so I feel much more relieved. It's not so strange that he fainted yesterday. I've never seen him relax like now. My father has always wanted him to be a perfect heir. My father is very ambitious, but he lacks the ability to match his ambitions. He was removed from the competition for the position of chairman of the TK Group, so he wanted to use SEOP as his grandson to regain power at TK. And to gain his recognition, my older brother always tries his best to become an emotionless machine. That year, he was 20 years old, Kong Jun appeared and is now Jun Seop. It was hot news at that time, so Kong Minki-yoon also knew a little about it. At that time, the youngest daughter of the chairman of the TK Group, TOHI, disappeared after falling in love with an unknown volleyball player. They went to the United States to live, and returned to Korea 20 years later. That woman died of leukemia. He took back his grandson, Jun Seop, and they also changed their surname to his mother's surname. Previously, Seop had believed that he was the only heir to TK, but at that moment, it was like a lightning bolt in broad daylight. To avoid losing all the efforts made over the years, SEOP had to work hard. But not long ago, due to his father's mistake, more than half of the control of the group was transferred to SEOP. His older brother must have felt very disappointed and collapsed. Hearing that, Kong Minki-yun silently thought that he was not just a casual working heir, he had concluded too quickly. Moreover, having just returned to the country and not being able to rest for long, he was immediately dragged to the conglomerate, and he must be under a lot of pressure. Poor thing, she couldn't help but exclaim. TSOO Jean continued, Deputy Director Kong Minki-yun doesn't know this, but because he has you by his side, he is much more stable. Deputy Director Kong, no, Sister Kong Minki-yun, can I call you sister? The charming little heiress of the conglomerate was so cute. Kong Minki-yun looked at the adorable younger sister and remembered his own twin younger brothers. Continuing her story cleverly, TSOO Jean pleaded, Sister, my poor older brother, what should we do? SEOP is really foolish. Today is a rare day off, but he doesn't know how to have fun. He even works at the hospital. The cunning girl started shedding a few tears to evoke Kong Minki-yun's sympathy, and she truly fell for it, feeling a pang of pity. Successful negotiation. TSOO Jean happily bounced back immediately. A moment later, Secretary Kim drove them all for an outing in the suburbs. Secretary Kim excitedly boasted that driving was her profession, while SEOP sulked for being dragged outside. Kong Minki-yun halted the young director's complaints by presenting the benefits of taking a break, mentioning that Newton rested under an apple tree and discovered the law of gravity. That mathematician, lying on a bed and seeing a fly on the ceiling, discovered the coordinate system. Proper and quality rest not only relieves fatigue but also increases productivity and creativity. This is directly related to work performance, dear director. Kong Minki-yun will do my best to ensure that the director has a day off in the true sense of being an assistant. She had truly prepared everything, making SEOP unable to resist her arrangements. Indeed. Sleeping for a few days afterward is enough, who needs a trip? Annoying, really meaningless. Although the director said so, his face seemed quite enthusiastic. It seems like I've pressured him too much lately. This day off should really be enjoyed to the fullest. Kong Minki-yun reminded herself silently.